This is my best kind of show notes because we didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is that not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
Did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, hello, everybody. It's December 24th. Welcome to Corona TV. It is a special day because it is Christmas Eve. It is a day that I think fills us with a lot of emotion when we think about our loved ones and our family. And certainly my wish to all of you is, however you are spending today, if you celebrated Festivus yesterday, you're celebrating Christmas tomorrow, that you are safe, that you are sound, and you're with the people that you love. And I am certainly with the people that I love today. I'm with you guys. And of course, I'm with my family, with my wife and my beautiful 3 kids today. Let's get into birthdays, shall we? On LinkedIn, I always apologize when I have to cut anyone off on the bottom, but Miranda McCurdy and Wes Patterson, you happy birthday to all of you. Howard Matalon, Mark Rose, and then I flipped him today. Let's talk about Facebook. Who's celebrating birthdays on Facebook? There's Maxine Myers. These are all people I went to school with. Lisa Farber, my twins. Gina Cowan, Nikki Chazen. Happy birthday to all of you, Mr. David Levinson. And at the bottom, let me see if I can read that. My old age has defeated me. I think it says M-E apostrophe. Wait a second. That's me. It's my birthday today. And according to these comments, I think you guys realize that. So thank you, Carol. Thank you, another Carol, my mother, Natalie Carol Jaffe. What a joy this year has been with you watching the show every day. It really does make me a little emotional, but I will keep it together. Ted Wright says, this is going to be fun. Why, Ted? Me getting emotional is fun? I'm just kidding. Raymond Goss, previous guest on the show, happy birthday, legend. Stephen Rubin says, happy birthday. Everyone is just saying happy birthday. How the hell do I get to all of you? I'm just going to kind of flash you on, but I have to mention our Zoom after show regulars, Leslie Laredo, the wonderful, wonderful Tom Morris, my favorite, happiest philosopher in the entire world. I hope I'm getting to all of you guys. Mr. Jason Redwood, I'm very, very grateful for you in my life. You've helped me so much with my website, Mr. Joey Dumont. Thank you guys for all those wishes. Let's move on, shall we? I wanted to just call out 3 little things. I loved all the comments that actually referenced Corona TV and referenced the fact that I have been wishing all of you happy birthday every single day since about March 15th. So Lisa Lake of Drewinka said, I'm afraid I did not feature you on Lisa TV, but wishing you an excellent half century anyway. I said, well, I'm featuring you on Corona TV as I'm featuring my sister-in-law. I said, happy 50th, Zoe. A shout out to you on Corona TV tonight. Yes, you just did get one. Best wishes and lots of love. And Steve Garfield, who said, one of the bright spots of this year was reconnecting with Joseph, joining him on his Corona TV show. I know you were trying to edit that and being part of the growing community he's building there. Well, here's another thing. I took that last night and this morning just to basically show you, my God, what a difference a day makes. Look at how old I was on the left and look how young I am today. Cleanly shaven. Yes, I'm wearing pajama tops, but this is 2020. We don't even wear pants anymore, so we may as well wear our pajama tops as well. And then finally, this morning, the greatest birthday wish ever. My scale, my smart scale, wished me happy birthday and told me that my moving average is going down again, 21.5 pounds. that I have dropped this year. Now, why am I showing you those three things? Because what counts in life? What counts in life are friends, friendship, love, joy, happiness. What counts in life is a sense of humor, which is why I showed you that image earlier. You know, you can lose weight, you can address weight. We all know that, but there's unfortunately no cure for ugly. There's just no cure for ugly. You can shave, you can try and cheat time, but at the end of the day, you got to just deal with the face that you were given. And then the third part, of course, is health. If we've learned anything this year, it's about health. So live, love, and laugh, as one of my good friends, David, always used to say, live, love, and laugh. Your health, your friendships at the end of the day, and of course, that sense of humor. But here's one more thing that gives me joy and makes me feel alive. My two guests today. We're not sure, we're hoping that Professor Philip Kotler, I know that he's around, and I know that he's copied the link, and I think he's waiting to come on a little bit later. Thank God Seth Godin is in the background smiling. I can see him smiling at the moment, but I'm so humbled and privileged and honored to have these two gentlemen join me today. This is how I choose to spend my birthday. I also choose to give you a seated soliloquy, but something happened on the way to the forum, which is I got hijacked. I got hijacked by Mr. You know, let me just take a small step back for a second. And I got to tell you, the after show that we've created, it's hard to put into words. This motley crew, our conservative, our environmentalist, our copywriter, our philosopher, our sales lady. We just created this support group. It has been a support group. And this is something that Jan Zlotnick, who's been one of our regulars, wrote. So he hijacked my seated soliloquy. Instead of me giving you one, he wrote this. And I would like to just read it to you. What you've done here is saved us from drowning, from floating away, from burrowing under, from disappearing, from missing the one superpower we didn't even know we had, each other. We've seen the dark side in this pandemic, in our country, in ourselves, and with the sheer luck of our circumstance, we've also been shown a light. That light is you, Joseph Jaffe. The show that's never to be called a call came calling, and you answered it. Boy, did you answer it. And being an explorer of humanity, you set sail and found every port of call where we and so many were waiting for something. Thank you for sharing, for wrapping us warm in your coat of many colors, for the light of this thing you've made out of Seinfeldian nothing into the Jaffian something of all somethings. Thank you for a time and a place and a purpose where we might simply do that greatest thing of all you taught us about. Hope, positivity, and optimism, showing up. Happy 50th, Joseph. Seated soliloquy, December 24th, 2020. The greatest gift. Well, Jan, I'm sorry, but I have a seated soliloquy as well. I have to be able to deliver it as well. And so here goes. When I was younger, I had a theory on life. Life was all about choice and options. And that was the gift of youth. When you're young, you literally have the world in the palm of your hand, where you live, who you love, where you go to school, what you do for a living, where you work. When we're young, you don't have the wisdom to realize that. And so you make choices, not necessarily knowing how many options you actually have. When you get older, however, those options dwindle. And I have to admit, my biggest fear was getting to the grand old age of 50 without any options left. Burnt out, washed up, a has-been. I was always driven by a fear of getting to be then 40, now 50, soon 60, loyal to a company and in a job for decades upon decades, only to be laid off during tough times, or replaced by someone half my age who would work twice as hard as me for half the pay. You know the drill. I guess these days we probably could update that to be replaced by an artificially intelligent machine. And then 2020 came and went. I turned 50, and lo and behold, I realized I was wrong. Surprise, surprise, I don't know everything. I can still learn. I still am learning. Look at my guests today. These are two people I choose to spend my birthday with. I don't know their exact ages, but I suspect they might be around 50 as well. They are lifelong learners and teachers, and they are young, and they are full of life. With the promise of the internet and the advent of social media, the prize of leveling the playing fields was offered to anyone. And sure, we've been through some confusing times of late, but 2020 has reminded us that anything is possible. Reinvention, transformation, purpose. There is no age restriction on kindness, generosity, empathy, inspiration, hope, positivity, or optimism. Our best days are ahead of us. My best days are ahead of me. Your best days are ahead of you. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives. Today I'm 50 years young, and I have Corona TV, my 172 guests, my Zoom after-show regulars, my community, my audience, my friends, my family, and myself to thank for it. So let's get on with the show. And I was able to do that. I said to Seth, I want to go through this as quickly as I possibly can because I want to get you on the show. So I estimated that I would do it in about 10 or 11 minutes, and I was more or less correct. So let me tell you about Seth Godin if you don't know who he is. He's the author of 20 books that have been bestsellers around the world and have been translated into more than 35 languages. He's also the founder of the Alt MBA and the Akimbo workshops, online seminars that have transformed the work of thousands of people. He writes about the post-industrial revolution, the way ideas spread, marketing, quitting, leadership, and most of all, changing everything. You might be familiar with his books, Lynchpin, Tribes, The Dip, and Purple Cow. His book, This Is Marketing, was an instant bestseller around the world. His newest book, The Practice, which was released last month, is already a bestseller. Seth has founded several companies, including Yoyodyne and Squidoo. His blog, which you can find by just typing the word Seth into Google, is one of the most popular in the world. His podcast is in the top 1% of all podcasts worldwide. In 2018, he was inducted into the Marketing Hall of Fame. More than 20,000 people have taken the powerful Akimbo workshops he founded, including the Alt MBA and the Marketing Seminar. And he is my guest today on Corona TV. Let's welcome him on, Mr. Seth Godin. Welcome to the show.
Straight from the Glowforge, still smelling like burnt wood.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
Wow.
Handing it over to you. You've got it now. It's yours.
I caught it and I put it into my heart. But wait a second. One more order of business. You had something to surprise me. So, you know, I'm just hanging out with you and a purple cow.
It's all about the backgrounds, man.
I'm telling you, it is all about the background. So, you know, this is my sunflower background, which came to me when I interviewed Dr. Harry Cohen, who wrote the book, Be the Sun, Not the Salt. But now I'm just going to change it to a little compendium of just a few of your books. It's so colorful. It's very colorful having you on the show.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, Seth, there is so much to talk about with you. But one of the funniest things is, as I was saying to you in our green room, is that you sent the shortest brief and the best possible brief. One thing I've learned on the show is actually not to overthink things, be able to have a real conversation. And to have a real conversation, you can't really prepare questions because that's you controlling the conversation. You don't even know what your guest is gonna talk about. So there were three things that you wanted to talk about. But before we get there, I would like to tell people a story of how I met you. So my very, very first article that I ever wrote was called, I'd Rather Beg for Forgiveness Than Ask for Permission. And it was really all about the fact, I don't even know if you remember this.
I don't.
It was really all about, well, I'll show it to you. I found it thanks to the internet. It was on ClickZ. And I don't know whether this was clickbaiting or Seth baiting or Godin baiting, but I started off with Seth Godin set the industry abuzz with his permission-based marketing opt-in philosophy. And I think the point that I was trying to make, by the way, was published in October 16th, 2001. Wow, just, you know, a month after 9/11. My whole point is I'd rather ask for forgiveness and beg for than beg for permission, was that the fact that even people that have in fact instituted what they call permission marketing insult us and don't give us relevance, etc. And I said I'd rather get spammed by something that is useful and relevant and remarkable to me, something that I didn't opt into, than the alternative. And the first comment on that blog was a scolding from Seth Godin, a schooling from Seth Godin. And I remember the blood rushing from my face, thinking my career is over before it even began. And just the fact that I'd gotten your attention, I think it blew me away. But that was the first, in a way, interaction. And it's funny, Seth, that's how you affected my life, influenced my life, and how you've stayed with me since all the way back at the very beginning.
I'm very sorry if I treated you with a lack of respect. That's certainly
no, it wasn't that. You schooled me, you taught me, and it was a wonderful moment. I never forgot it, and it was a moment maybe at the time that I thought that I was being reprimanded or sent to detention, but it was just fantastic to know that my writing, even at that beginning, could connect with someone like you. So no, Seth, thank you for being my first commenter in my life. I appreciate it. But Seth, you wanted to talk about three things, and I think let's get straight into them. The first thing was just one word: possibility. So I'll turn it over to you in each one of the cases. What are you thinking of, and what do you mean when you say the word possibility?
So Roz Zander and Ben Zander wrote a book, The Art of Possibility. I listened to it on audio at least once a year. Ben's a dear friend, as is Roz. Possibility tends to arise when we're not sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to. And you can say that necessity is the mother of invention, but I think it's bigger than that. I think that we can make a choice to be optimistic about the future or not. And optimists run the risk of being disappointed, whereas pessimists have the danger of not doing enough. And I think that if we can look at the world around us with so much trauma, so much division, so many people who are afraid, and say, what could I contribute? What could I build? Could I find 5 people who I can weave together? Can I find some possibility in the world? Well, that's how we're going to make things better. That's how things have always gotten better. And, there are people in our audience today who I know, folks like Carol, who I just met. And when they show up and say, I made this, then they've done something. And I think what marketing really is the act of making things better by making better things. It's not about hustling. It's not about taking. It's not about making a profit. It's about telling a true story that connects people in a way they want to go.
Making things better by making better things. It's a beautiful concept because of creation. Because of the ability to actually not just talk and talk and talk and say what you're going to do, but to actually do what you say and follow up and follow through. And, I was thinking that this has got to be a great time to be in marketing because of the possibilities that lie ahead. That doesn't mean certainly that the path ahead is an easy one or an even one. But that is, I guess, optimism, right? And optimism is a choice.
Right. And so is marketing. And most people who are in marketing are in it for the wrong reasons and don't understand what it is. Marketing isn't advertising. And marketing is not doing what your boss said. Marketing is not hyping average stuff to average people, which is what it used to be. But if you want to do the other kind of marketing, we need you right now.
So how would you define that other type of marketing, that the new kind of marketing, besides this idea of doing what you say and creating? What are a couple of other tenets that would help round out a definition of the new marketing?
So I call it modern marketing, and modern marketing begins with an understanding that attention is scarce and precious, and you don't get to take it from other people. And it is followed by the fact that the network effect is the most powerful tool that has been invented since mass media. The network effect is mass media was dominant for 50 years, but the network effect has built every significant organization and cultural shift of the last decade. And it's simple, which is, will my life get better if I tell other people about this? Now, I'm not going to tell other people because you want me to. I'm going to tell other people because I want to. And that's how everyone found out about Twitter. And it's how almost every single person in this audience found out about you, is someone told somebody else. And so modern marketing begins by saying, do I have a true story, something I can live up to? And number two is, when I tell that story, when I offer this to the world, will some of the people, the smallest viable audience, decide that their life is better if they tell other people? And most of the time, the answer is no. And so I guess the challenge that we have to face as marketers is, do we care enough to do the difficult work of being missed if we were gone? Do we care enough to show up for the people who want us to show up and are willing to ignore everyone else?
And the answer, of course, is just like the whole the adage of marketers, we'd like to talk even if we don't have anything to say. And then I love that little litmus test, right? Which is, what will they say about us when we're gone? Which is mortality. And it's a good kind of mortality, because it really is less about what comes after we're gone and more about, what are we doing right now to make a difference? What are we doing right now? Is every interaction we have a meaningful, a memorable, a remarkable one? I want to ask you one more question before we move on, which is, you mentioned the word disappointment, and you spoke about being an optimist sets you up to be disappointed. It's actually an intriguing thought, and I've never thought about it before, and I'm actually formulating what I'm thinking, what the question, which is, do we need to get better as professionals, as human beings, at managing and almost embracing disappointment as a part of life?
Yeah, it's a great question. In your soliloquy, you talked about the fact that as we get older, we have fewer choices and options. That's actually not true. As we get older, we have more options. The problem is we have bigger sunk costs. And human beings are terrible at ignoring sunk costs. Ignoring sunk costs is the single most important thing you learn in business school. And I could talk about it for 5 hours, but I won't. But that's why it's hard as we get older, because we are surrounded by gifts from our former self that are difficult to walk away from. When we talk about optimism, optimism is a form of nostalgia for the future. It's a form of falling in love with a version of what might happen. And if you want to be good at it, you have to get good at being okay when it doesn't happen. And so there are two sides of the same coin: ignoring sunk costs, refusing the gifts from your former self, and embracing the disappointment that comes from being an optimist, because fixating on a version of the future that doesn't happen is helpful if it gets you going, but it's painful if you stick with it after the future has arrived.
We have a few comments that pick up what we were saying. By the way, Jan, who's there, said, making things better by making better things. This makes me stand akimbo to go forward and create. David Libby says, optimism creates opportunity. And Tamara says, disappointment shouldn't be a tailspin, but an opportunity to learn. And there's Carol, who said, ignoring sunk costs is repeated over and over in B score, and I suck at it. LOL as well. One of the things that's happened this year is that we have, and I'm jumping to your third topic, and we'll come back to the second because the second is so big, is what you call an end of hustle. And I obviously have my own interpretation of it, but I would love to hear why this is one of the three things that you're thinking about and what it means to you.
So hustle is a byproduct of the industrial economy. If you have a factory, and you can be a solo entrepreneur who has a factory, and you're churning things out, suddenly the pressure on you to get more customers, to quote, get the word out, keeps increasing. And suddenly you become selfish. You become selfish, saying, I will parlay whatever leverage I have to steal whatever attention is necessary, because I got to get the word out, because this thing I'm building, producing is so great. I just got to get more people to buy it. And many of the people who call themselves marketers on the internet these days are actually narrators, gurus of hustle, which is how do we close talk people? How do we get in their face? How do we trick them so that reciprocity kicks in? They're misusing Cialdini, they're misusing Kotler, and saying, how do I play humans against themselves so I can get what I want? And it's all around us. But that doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's sustainable. And when I think about the people 15 years ago and 10 years ago who were telling me I was doing things wrong and who were pointing out the hustle shortcuts and the Lamborghinis in their garage or whatever it is, they're not around anymore because hustle burns itself out. It's not a fuel that burns clean. What burns clean is generosity, is showing up in a way that people are glad to see you. And it's not the short road, but it is the sustainable one.
This idea of it's not a fuel that burns clean, this idea, slowing down, being in the moment, being present, recognizing right now that life is fleeting and potentially passing us by. How does modern marketing build on this in terms of this idea of being present, being in the moment, and slowing down, the slow burn? Because, and I'll give you one just extra little ingredient there. We live in the hustle of quarterly earnings, and the pace, the nature of work is to just, focus on quantity versus quality. At the end of the day, that's the overriding takeaway that I take is how do we get back to quality besting and trumping quantity?
Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of words there that we probably don't have time to dive into, but the one I want to start with is that impatient, brazen generosity is not what industrialists do, but what we have to do. That the danger of having a mantra like slowing down is it's a good place to hide. And if someone is drowning and you're a lifeguard, you don't hide and you don't slow down. You jump in the water and you save them because that's your job and because you can. And if you're, I remember 5 or 10 years ago, I was sitting in a restaurant. The day was sort of cold out and the door was sticking. And every time someone came in, the door stuck open. And everyone in the restaurant just sat and shivered. And so finally I just got up and I fixed the spring because I could. And I didn't wait for someone else to fix the spring. And I didn't fix the spring so I could tell you this story 5 years later. I fixed the spring because not only would I be warmer, but everybody else would be warmer too. And it was risky in the sense that the owner could have come out and yelled at me and said, I like the spring being broken or whatever. But I guess what I'm saying is we don't want to slow down on things that build community and that benefit others. I think we want to slow down on the race to pay attention to metrics that actually aren't important.
There you go. Thank you. That was a nice subtle, because by the way, listening to you, I even stopped normally I take notes, right? My little cheat. Let me tell you what my cheat is. This is my cheat. So and that's not the cheat either. That's the book that we'll talk about soon. But my cheat is I do this, and sometimes I do that. And while I'm doing that, I'm taking notes because I don't want to lose this. But you know what? This one is so simple. I'm going to go back and watch this whole thing again, maybe with my family, and process this. What I've also been doing in the background is trying to message Mr. Philip Kotler, Professor Kotler, who tells me he's on StreamYard, and yet he's not on StreamYard. So
He's in someone else's conversation.
I don't know what's going on, but I certainly sent him the right StreamYard, and I was texting him as well. But you actually said something that I picked up right at the end, which is it's actually, and I suppose this is true to life, right? It's never or, it's never extremes. It's always and. It's always the ability to prioritize, but also that's the art, that's the balance, right? The balance is the ability to know when to speed up and when to slow down. Speed up on the stuff that counts, slow down on the stuff that doesn't. And while I was doing that, Philip Kotler logged on. So that shows you now, if it was a real professional, I wouldn't have told anyone anything about that, and I would have just nonchalantly, but that is not who I am anymore. Now you love me, you accept me, warts and all, because I am far from perfect. Seth, there is one thing that I always do with my guests, which is I find a quote, and then they have to basically identify who uttered these words. So your quote is, "Marketing is a race without a finish line."
Oh, I think that's got to be Roger Bannister.
It is someone who is almost as fast. It is actually Professor Philip Kotler who said that. You see, I'm sneaky and I'm devious. Professor.
That's
Philip
okay. I was sneakier than you because I had a funnier answer.
Yeah, well, yours was probably a smarter one at that. Seth, before we bring Philip on, I want to talk about the final thing that you focus your entire life's work on creativity. Please define what is creativity from Seth Godin's perspective. And as you do, what I would love to do and what I will show on the screen is some of your current projects, your incredible book, your workshops, and some of your passion points at the moment.
Oh, it's super nice of you. Creativity has nothing to do with being clever or being artistic. Creativity is simply solving interesting problems. And if you don't ship it, it doesn't count, because if you don't ship it, you didn't solve the problem. An interesting problem could be a new way to build a bridge with fewer materials. An interesting problem could be a way to get somebody in your circle to speak up when they are afraid or have been traumatized. These are all interesting problems that demand creative solutions. And so what it means to make art is to do human work that hasn't been done before, that might not work, that makes things better.
Human work, which implies flawed, but also implies heart, that might not work. Again, that is not necessarily perfect, that makes people's lives better, that actually serves a purpose, delivers value, utility. And then, of course, above all of that is this idea of shipping. I love how you've almost, if I understand it correctly, rethunk and reimagined execution in terms of being able to ship it, in terms of delivering it. I know you've created a book that is called Shipping Creative Work, the Practice, but you've created this thing called the Creatives Workshop. And I cottoned onto this statement, which I just loved. You said, this workshop gives you a chance to unleash your creative generosity, a chance to create magic for those you seek to serve. Again, there are so many unbelievable words there: chance, magic, serving people. But the word that just struck me was generosity. What do you mean by creative generosity?
Well, if the work you're doing is just for you, it's a hobby. And I love hobbies, and you should have one. But if you bring it to the world, it stops being for you and it starts being for other people, because it's not a selfish hustle. It is a chance to turn on lights for other people. And if you turn on a light, the photons don't care who's benefiting from them. Everyone gets to see. And so the generous work of Miles Davis or the generous work of Ignaz Semmelweis was turning on a light for people. And long, long after they're gone, we get to still be able to see.
Generosity is obviously bigger than just keeping it for yourself. That selfishness, it's hoarding. But the ability to actually create with the end in mind, with the ability to help uplift, I think, and to actually realize that creativity, true, pure creativity, is, I guess, just about that. It's about preparing something for someone else. Otherwise, I guess that's just the equivalent, as many of us have been this year in 2020, which is all dressed up and nowhere to go. Seth, there was one thing that I know you care about, and that's build on. And I would love to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about it.
Well, this is the season for spiritual reasons and for tax reasons that a lot of people think about nonprofits. I care about a lot of nonprofits. I work with Room to Read and Charity Water and Acumen and the Innocence Project and many others. But I highlighted Build On today because it's just such a perfect combination of things. Jim, the founder, works in urban settings in the United States with a program that keeps kids from dropping out of high school. And one of the things that keeps kids from dropping out of high school is being part of a community, being part of a club. And then that club, in addition to helping people in the community, goes to Malawi and builds homes for people there. And so it's this worldwide back and forth that I think is just so elegant, and watching what he's built for over the decades is extraordinary.
Seth, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to bring on Philip Kotler. What a treat to have both of you on with me at the same time. But just a slightly different question, maybe some quick fire questions for you, which is, how have you conquered being so accessible, so responsive? How many emails do you get a day? There is something magical about you, because I don't believe that I've ever... I sometimes actually show people and they marvel at the fact that you seem to always respond to me within minutes, but certainly under 30 minutes. How do you do it?
That's because you're on the A list, but I am begging.
You've been cloned.
I am begging. I have no staff. I have not one person who works for me. I am begging people not to send me an email because I'm hooked on it. I've answered 175,000 emails. It keeps me from things I'm afraid of, digging in deeper, but it's a sunk cost I'm having trouble ignoring. I don't use social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on MySpace. And I don't watch television. And I don't go to meetings. So I just saved 7.5 hours right there. But I decided a long time ago that if a human being cares enough to engage with me in a non-anonymous, dignified, gentle and open way, then I'll do my best to do the same for them. But it's an open API, and the open API of email is becoming toxic because it's too easy for industrialists and hustlers to plug into it. So I got to tell you, if I, sold the guest post on my blog to the 800 people a day who are asking to buy one, that would be a business model. It's bad. We need to start charging for stamps. But in the meantime, I will continue to be swamped by email and do my best to be a human in the community.
If I've taken anything away from today, it's just how truly human you are. You said to me just before we went live, you said, I'm here for you, Joe. And that meant a lot to me. Today means a lot to me. Seth's blog means a lot to me. You have, anybody that tells you blogging is dead. I mean, we've just seen example after example of consistency, persistence, quality every day. So connect with Seth through Seth's blog, as opposed to, but through Seth's blog. Sign up for one of his amazing workshops. Buy the book. I've provided links. I've already put them in the comment thread. And without further ado, I have to, as we go through this transition, move us back to sunflowers and welcome the man that actually got me into marketing. If you send all your complaints to Professor Philip Kotler, because he's the reason I am a marketer today.
The one and the only, in person.
Hold on 1 second. You've got to just unmute. Can you? No, you've got to unmute. I don't want to waste a second of this, please. I'm gonna put words in your mouth. Joseph, you are without question the smartest person that I've ever met in my life. No, I'm kidding. Just try and figure out how to unmute.
Press the space bar. See if that makes a difference. Press and hold the space bar.
Press the space bar. Hit the the little cog that says camera mic.
Mm.
It's gonna come. It's gonna come. Not yet, but keep trying. We've got patience.
While you're trying, so you're not on the spot, you keep talking, and Joseph's going to ask me the question he wanted me to prepare for, which you didn't ask, which is, what's the question that no one's ever asked me before? So I can't like walk away until you ask me that question. So you do that while Professor Kotler keeps trying to talk, and the minute we hear him, we can go back. How does that sound?
So Philip, just keep talking, play around, and as soon as we hear your voice, we'll bring you back, and I will make you go full screen right now, Seth. So what is this is, by the way, this is the voice of God camera mode. What is the one question that you've never been asked or the one you wish you'd been asked?
No one has ever asked me what's my favorite Far Side cartoon and why.
And what is the answer?
Well, you haven't asked me yet.
What is your favorite Far Side cartoon and why?
So Gary did this cartoon a really long time ago, and the caption is cow tools. And this is the best version I could find on the internet because he doesn't like it when people put his cartoons on the internet. This led to more than 1,000 letters, like with stamps, being sent to his syndicate from people who didn't understand the cartoon. And so the first reason that I love this cartoon is because a lot of people didn't get the joke. That's why you read The Far Side. If you get the joke every time, you should be reading Archie. Number two is because I got the joke. The joke was for me, the smallest viable audience. It is for me, this whole thing is a metaphor for the symbolism of creativity. It's not for everyone. And if someone wants me to explain it, you can go ahead and put that in the comments. But this is such a smart group. I'm pretty confident you've all figured it out. Back to you, Joseph.
Nice. Well, do we have sound yet?
I think we do. I hear typing.
Well, I'm here.
Oh, music to my ears and to my
Can
heart.
I make a suggestion? Next time, start at 11:30, not 11:50. Make sure both guests can be on. And because I have so many microphones and I've done Zoom a million times, but you win the most frustrating time on this effort. But let's go on. Seth, I'm sorry I missed your talk. I hope this has been recorded.
Don't worry.
But and so on. I'm happy to be on now.
Well, I'm happy to see you, Professor.
Congratulations on being 50 years old, by the way.
Thank you. Will you let me know when you turn 50 what it's like?
Okay. Well, I can't remember that, but I'll tell you when I'm 100. Okay.
Which is a day that if you ever want me to come on your show, I will be there. I'm going to take advantage of having both of you on by asking you, first of all, the Corona question, which I ask all of my guests this week, which is, what is the one silver lining, if any, that you'll take away from 2020?
Yeah. Can I give you my answer? My answer is the election of Biden and Harris, because we're getting rid of a madman who would have destroyed the country, especially if he had 4 more years. So that's the silver lining.
What about you, Mr. Godin?
I think it forced a lot of people to make friends with themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm going to ask you
to get to know themselves.
Yeah.
And as I was saying to Seth, I truly got to know myself this year. I've changed in so many ways, all of them good, but ultimately all of them about growth. And as you say, the quote, I don't know if you saw the quote that Seth had to identify, which was actually your quote, is that there is no finish line. Marketing is this ongoing, evolving, changing journey. So I have 2 more questions, and then I will thank Seth again for his wonderful, generous, creative generosity today, which is, I'm going to actually ask if you guys will play along with me for Seth to ask Philip a question, for Philip to ask Seth a question. It can be about anything.
Okay, let's see if I think I saw your question earlier. So ask.
What's one question you'd like to ask Seth?
Here's my question to Seth. is human nature at the gene level selfish or pro-social?
Oh, at the gene level, there's absolutely no question it's pro-social. Anyone who thinks genes are selfish has not read Dawkins' book. They've just looked at the title.
Good for you. That's exactly the answer I was hoping to see. That we are probably pro-social human beings if we grow up under the right circumstances. Not selfish, but collaborative and working together.
Yeah, there's a hardware-software mismatch for sure. And I've been thinking a lot about the software thing. My question to you is, as the person who has godfathered more marketers than any human in the history of the world, what is the most surprising thing someone has done thinking that they were doing something you said was a good idea?
I hope that more people have looked at the other side of marketing as a real treasure, and the other side of marketing is called demarketing. And what I mean by that is we've done too much marketing and not enough demarketing, because that's the only way to save the planet. We've got to figure out how to have people eat more carefully and to turn the lights off when not needed, and just practice the pro-social behavior with respect to the planet. And as you know, the three things we always say is it's profits, people, and planet. But two of them were forgotten. I'm even a little skeptical about marketing, because we cannot go on building up demand endlessly. So we've got to learn how to use our water more carefully, how to have population grow more carefully, and so on.
Bravo. Well said. All right, I'm going to let you guys have your conversation now.
Seth,
I don't want to take a minute away from it.
thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And stay safe. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I guess my first question for you, Professor Philip Kotler, is I would have asked you the question, which is, do you ever stop learning? But now my question, after you schooled me once again and asked Seth a question, a tough question, do you ever stop teaching? Have you ever stopped teaching? Is that something that you can slow down, or is it just inextricably a part of who you are?
Well, I have a natural inclination to teach, but I think it would be hard on people to be with me and see me there for the purpose of teaching them something. So I'm very sensitive to not be seen as teaching, but more having conversation and learning. So I really believe that you're absolutely catching the flavor of me, which is I'm interested in learning a great deal. And in fact, I'm now going into evolution theory and something else, and I can't possibly be an expert in it, but I feel I missed out a great deal by not following the DNA genome developments that have taken place. And whether that's going to lead to any writing on my part, I don't know. But there's so many areas of great interest to me.
Well, I mean, I think it's the Peter Drucker quote, which is someone asked him what was his favorite book that he ever wrote, and his answer was the next one. I mean, you've written so much. I feel at this point right now, and it's the first time I'm going to introduce a guest who is actually on a screen with me at the same time. But for people that don't know, Philip Kotler is the S.C. Johnson & Son Distinguished Professor of International Marketing at Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University, Emeritus. He has been called the father of modern marketing. He is the author of 80 books, and his best book is the next one, the 81st book, and 160 journal articles. Marketing Management, now in its 15th edition, was cited by Business Week as one of the 50 best books written on business, and I personally would take a 0 off there. His latest 4 books, he now batches them, are My Adventures in Marketing, Confronting Capitalism, Democracy in Decline, and Advancing the Common Good. He has received 22 honorary degrees abroad, and he has consulted many major companies. And here's a fun fact. He was once accused by a high-level manager in the 1980s that he hurt US business by teaching marketing to the Japanese. He had published at the time that Japanese were the world's best marketers, best quality, lowest price. So now they're blaming you on competition,
Right.
on free market competition. Welcome officially to the show, and thank you for making my birthday such a special one.
Let me pick up on what you just said, because I did regard in the 1970s, 80s, and so on, Japan doing the most exemplary job of any country in the marketing field. And in fact, because they were working on a premise of highest quality at lowest price. You can't lose if that's your mantra. So, but today, as a matter of fact, it's going on now, I'm working with the Japanese to explain another competitor who is outperforming them. And actually, they're running a conference talking about South Korea, because South Korea comes along and being occupied previously by Japan, became Japanese. In fact, they became super Japanese in their mentality, and they create LG, the companies, Samsung, Kia, and Hyundai. And so now it's not a matter of taking any country and saying that that's the country that's best at marketing, but because that will move over time. In fact, I see China's coming along in a fantastic way. By the way, China produces 22 million cars a year. We get away with about 8 or 9 million, and Japan, which is about 6 or 7 million. So we got to watch China too.
It's inherent in that response is a very important C word, which is complacency. And so, here today, gone tomorrow, in front today, also ran tomorrow. And it's interesting that moving target. I feel almost, even when we look at the US, when we look at the US in general, you and I have had this conversation before about the fact that no dynasty, no civilization, no corporation lives forever. How foolish and how arrogant are we if we believe the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, brand America, that we will be the superpower and that shining light on the hill for all to be able to be inspired by, if we don't very, very quickly recognize the dangers, the toxic dangers of arrogance, hubris, and complacency.
Absolutely. I think that we have a lot of reframing to do in this country about what we want to not only do for ourselves, but to do for the rest of the world. At the one time, we were so sure that of our mission, which was to help democracy and capitalism perform its outstanding miracles. But now here's what's happened. When you look at how good our students are in mathematics or in the STEMs areas, it's lucky if we're number 20 or 21. When you look at how are we a happy country? Well, we're number 19 in happiness. You got to go to Scandinavia to see that all 4, 5, or 6 Nordic countries are just doing so well. And not only happiness, the other is, just what we call wellness, being physically well and so on, and mentally well. And we're about 20 at that level. So when Trump comes along and says, make America great again, we have lost something. We used to welcome people from abroad, give us your poor. And now we are in the position of keeping them out to the extent possible. So we have lost our values. We're not living our values. Now, either we have to find new ones, or here's the thing about the contrast between China and the US now. We were the path breakers and the model for other countries. There's no question about that. China's becoming, especially for the Asian countries, the model. Well, why? They've reduced poverty by the largest amount possible, unimaginable amount. They have built around. They're building now the whole belt and system, where goods could be made somewhere in the Asia and travel right efficiently to Europe and then to the States. And they're path breaking in the kinds of things they're thinking about doing. Now, we have to also figure out what is our version of the good life for people, and are we practicing it? And we've got the problem of racism and so many other things, but no one's giving up. There's a silver lining to all this, just in expressing the fact that we are lost and have to find ourselves again.
When we met the very first time, it was, and I will never forget it. I was actually applying to do an MBA at Kellogg, and the reason why I wanted to come to Kellogg was because of you. And I attended one of your classes, and you can see my background. I'm in one of your classes right now on many levels. And I remember, I think, coming up to you like a fanboy and going, you know, I wanted to attend one of your lectures. I learned from your textbooks. I think you called security on me, or at least you had the button underneath the desk. And then years go by. I didn't do my MBA, but I've ended up writing books. But I was asked to speak at an event in Caracas in Venezuela. There were two speakers, you and yourself and myself. And I will never forget, and I want to share the story, how we ended up spending about an hour together up in the penthouse in a bar. There was no one else. They opened it just for us. And we spoke and we spoke and we spoke for about an hour. And I was just talking, trying to impress, verbal diarrhea coming out of my mouth. And you listened and you took notes.
Probably. And I may have published the notes too.
I hope you did. Yeah, I hope you did. But I've told, I don't know how many thousands of people that story, how I said, Professor Philip Kotler was not only actively learning in this meeting, but he was learning from me. And what was I doing? What was I learning? Well, I guess I learned one thing, which is the fact that I wasn't learning enough. The other thing that blew me away with you is how you are an activist today. Your thinking, it is so necessary and so needed. Your thinking on conscious capitalism, on the evolution of capitalism. It's amazing to see how you are as young as you've ever been in terms of your, not just your ideas that are fresh, that are cutting edge, but the fight inside you. And I just wonder why so many people don't have that fight inside them.
You know, it's interesting. I guess it's partly due to my role model, which is Peter Drucker. Peter, at in his early 90s, he was still fighting and writing and thinking and so on. And I had a professor like that at the University of Chicago who just never.
Oh, I lost you there.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to cut off some.
No, you're back. You're back.
Okay. But now this thing about Venezuela, going back to that, it's very sad that was a very interesting country, by the way. It was such a successful country, and it's tragic what happened. And I wish you will send me a picture of the two of us, because I want to add that to my collection. So I have a copy of how you used to look and how you look today.
I have to find a photo of us there, but I remember another story was we were in a car going to a PR, like this whole cocktail party, and it was like, I think a bulletproof glass, and we had guards with like semi-automatic weapons. And I remember, just making idle conversation with them, and I said to them, "So you're with Kotler and Jaffe today. What's your next gig?" And they said, "Tomorrow night we're with Maroon 5." And I thought, I felt that was the one day in my life I felt like a rock star. But before we have a few moments left, and I definitely wanted to, we're going to have to figure out a way to keep this conversation going, because I mean, these are the things you wanted to talk about today. The 7 wicked problems of the world, brand activism, who can help solving these problems? How do we get more happiness in the world, which is just amazing. And I had so many questions to ask you, but for now, what I would love to do is, you wrote 2 amazing articles. One is America Ready for Nordic Capitalism, and 2, Business Leaders Can Help Save the Nation. And I would love for you to, just continue this conversation just briefly on the evolution of capitalism and how important it is, quite frankly, for what role can marketing and marketers play in terms of leading this change and this charge?
Yes, the thesis in the article about Is America Ready for Nordic Capitalism is the following, that basically we want to be good as a society with respect to the common goods in the society, common goods being what you eat and what you wear as clothing. And marketing does a superb job of delivering innovations and delight in common goods. Then there's a level of goods which are very important to our lives, like having a college education, possibly having a good health system, having childcare. Now, those should be as important as the common goods, but in this country, they're treated as luxury goods. They're luxury goods. They're very expensive goods. When you have to buy your health insurance and go to college, we know the college debt is 1.6 trillion aggregately for the country. So the question is, how can the Nordic countries offer free education, a great health system, childcare, 6 week long vacations, not 2 week long vacations, and be a capitalist society? Well, the answer is, you got to raise the tax rates, and especially on those who have more money. And so most people, there's evidence now that most people want to go Nordic in this country. If you said, would you pay more taxes and have a first-class health system and go to college at a much lower cost and so on, boy, those are the headaches that kill people in this country. So we have to go, see, because our tax system was one where we used to pay 90% at the top tax rate, then 70%. Now it's down to 37%. Well, all based on what one group, normally the Republican Party, think is going to make for economic growth. But the periods of greatest economic growth in the country has been under the Democratic presidents. The evidence is very clear. And that higher taxes do not slow down growth. For some interesting technical reasons, actually, the country grows faster with higher taxes.
We've politicized. There is the politicization and the weaponization of common sense and humanity, right? And how do we deliver this message? And I think in a way it speaks to the second article, right? Which is how business leaders can save the nation. Because I mean, I think you would probably agree with me that I don't know that our government can deliver against this mandate, because everything is so polarized. Can business step up? Can business deliver? Can marketing deliver where government is failing to unite and act?
Well, there's a silver lining in business now, I have to say, because the big problem was business thought that their mission is to make profits, not for the workers or others, for the stockholders, those who were the investors. After all, the investors clearly take the risk and they should get reward. That's fine. But the idea was that was a too narrow a view, because you could have good rewards for the stockholders and unhappy employees, suppliers who don't trust you, distributors that don't trust you. So we've moved to the stakeholder view that you make everyone on the team better off as a result of running your company. And that's so many companies, large ones like Unilever, is a great spokesman on this idea that they're running their business for profits, but the profits to be shared equitably with all the groups that contributed to the profits. Isn't it so obvious? And how did we get so dumb for such a long period?
Well, it seems, and you speak about silver linings. This year, I interviewed CMOs from P&G and Unilever and General Motors and General Mills and BlackRock, and I was blown away by the level of activism inside these executives, just like I was when I met you. As I said in my soliloquy today, and I don't know if you heard it as I started, which is there are many things that I've learned about myself that I was turning 50, where I thought one thing and it turns out I was wrong. Well, the one thing I thought of is that you have less choice when you get older. As Seth Godin said today, you actually have more choices. You just have higher sunken costs and opportunity costs. But the other thing that I learned is that with wisdom, with age, with maturity, with resilience comes a much higher level of self-awareness and activism. And that's when I met you the first time, when I saw you as a true revolutionary, as someone that was leading the charge. And so I have to echo this point, which is Kevin Lee said, Kotler should join the Biden administration. I mean, I would like to say, can I second that? Can somebody send a screenshot of this? But we need more of these voices, and we certainly need more of these ideas. I want to be mindful of the time, but I just want to say, Tom Morris said, wonderful stuff from Professor Kotler, true wisdom. And Michael Donnelly said, incredible show. Thanks so much, Joseph, for sharing the very special gifts with us today. Happy birthday and all the best always. Philip, I always ask my guests to identify a quote. Earlier, I will give you a clue. Seth's quote was you. You were the quote. So my question to you is, who said this? Advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable.
I had never heard that quote before, but did Ogilvy say it?
Well, your clue was that Seth's quote was you. So your quote was Seth's.
Okay,
Advertising
good.
is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. And I amended that in my book, in one of my books, and I said frequency of advertising is the price we pay for not being memorable. So Apple's 1984 commercial, of course, aired only once. Philip, in the time we have left, I'm just going to ask you just a couple of questions that are unrelated to work. Number one, are you done learning?
No, I've never been done learning. But here's the thing. Let me tell you what I've been researching briefly. I'd like to crack this nut, which is how to get billionaires to start working together to save the nation and the world. I just finished an article. We have 2,200 billionaires in the world. I'm not counting those who hide their money, because there's a mafia and royalty and so on too. But those 2,000 people, if they could start talking to each other and be 6 or 10 of them put in a room to figure out how to make the world work better, and then to have the money to help us make it work better, it would be a great thing. So that's an article I entitled recently. It's called Billionaires Unite. You can help us save the nation and the world.
Wonderful. I think maybe marketing can help. JP Coolvine said, I think you cannot convince those people. You need to seduce them in. So like what JFK did in terms of rallying behind NASA. Maybe.
Well, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they did it with the giving pledge. now there's 214, maybe it's gone up, billionaires who care that, and they're going to give away half of their wealth in the next 10 years, basically, to good causes. So there's good guys. There's Nick Hanauer, and there's several who, that's not out of their conscience. They just feel they want to help, and they need a channel to know how to do it.
Mark Master says, sitting back and enjoying every minute over in the UK. Have a good Christmas, everyone. And Leslie says, having lived in Sweden for over a year, I found their happiness was felt at all economic levels and at all ages.
Key idea. Thank you.
Philip, what has been the most proudest moment of your life?
Oh, I would say that one of the moments I treasure is when I was phoned by Peter Drucker, who I knew of but never heard from, to come to California and to spend a day viewing his art. Now that's interesting.
Wow.
Because he has a fabulous, when he gave lectures to Japan and elsewhere, he didn't want cash, he wanted art from the country. So we spend the whole day, and actually he says there was a second motive, and the motive was to basically have you tape a show with me about the nonprofit world, because I've been sort of an expert in nonprofit organizations. So Peter Drucker said it was the art that drew you to come to California, but I really want to record you and what makes a nonprofit a great, successful nonprofit. So, but that's one of the highlights of my own life with often another person. I have highlights with people in Sweden who I adore, and India, and in China. Those are the highlights, are relationships I've had that are special with certain people.
Well, I tell you, there is no question that one of the highlights of my life, which is a continuous highlight, has been meeting an idol, a role model, a mentor, a father figure, all of the above, and that would be you. It's incredible when a book changes your life, your whole career, and that's what your textbook did to me. I suddenly realized that I was a marketer, but you have continued to write. This is one of your most recent books, Advancing the Common Good, Strategies for Businesses, Governments, and Nonprofits. And I've pasted that in the comments to find out that this journey, this marketing journey continues, and you continue to lead us. So I want to thank you for coming in and spending time with me on my 50th birthday. I hope and I pray if I'm given the ability, mentally, physically, to be more like you in my life.
Joseph, thank you so much. And it's a real pleasure to know you and count you as a good and dear friend. Thank you so much.
Well, you may not say that after I tell you that last year we met and I recorded an hour-and-a-half conversation between us. I have not released it because I was waiting for the right time. That right time is going to be soon. So for those of you that want an encore with Philip and I wasn't trying to hoard it, but we have a magnificent conversation between us, and I will let you know when it's ready for broadcast. But the world needs to hear more of you, Philip. And I just want to look at some of the comments as well. Kevin Lee says, we'll have to buy a copy of the latest Kotler books, have the classics. Every book is an absolute classic. And Tom Morris says, now I've got to read as much Philip Kotler as possible. And he has an open invitation to the Morris House. I think he wants you to bring him art or look at his art. All I know is that he's got a very bad painting with absinthe in the background. E.B. Moss says, thank you for giving us this gift on your birthday. Trust me, the gift of Philip Kotler is all of ours. Philip, thank you so much. For those of you that want to find out more about him, you can follow him on Twitter, Kotl. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. You can connect with him on Instagram. He's on Instagram as well. Definitely buy his latest books as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't say one more thing, Philip, which is you are starting Marketers Beyond Borders. Just tell us about that very briefly.
Well, the idea came from Doctors Beyond or Without Borders. And I said, there's so many companies in the world who don't understand marketing. They think they're using it, and even then they don't really get the value out of it. And maybe we should just be available to companies at no charge to send someone over. I'm just like a doctor. I'm there to help you, and and if you want the help, just let me know. So I haven't yet organized the group called Marketers Without Borders. You would be a wonderful person, Joe, to be one of them. Well, your show is basically being a marketer without borders. But
sign me up. Consider me. I am on board. I'm chomping at the bit. I would love nothing more than to collaborate with you and to be a part of this organization. Philip, we're going to move over to the Zoom after show, but I always end my show with someone who is, he is wise beyond his years, but he is no Philip Kotler, and he is, of course, Chuck Norris, and he always gives the final verdict on my guest.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. So I will be back on Monday. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Take care of yourselves. And again, Philip, thank you for making my day so special.
Sure. And Happy New Year to everyone, too.
To you too.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is a show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at CoronaTV.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.